In this video we're going to complete example 1 and we're going to solve the following quadratic equations. Now in case you don't know what a quadratic equation is, basically if you have an equation and you have a pronumeral with a power of 2, that's a good indicator that this is a quadratic equation. Now when people solve these, they make the big mistake of only giving one solution, and I need to talk about that first. So we'll start on a blank page. When solving quadratic equations, you will notice that many of the questions will have two solutions. But it is important to note that at times you will have only one solution, or sometimes no solutions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a really basic quadratic equation. This is a quadratic equation because we have a pronumeral to the power of 2 here. So most of you look at this and you go, okay, this is really obvious. X would have to equal 2 because 2 to the power of 2 equals 4. But they forget about the second solution. What happens if I take negative 2 to the power of 2? Well, negative 2 squared is the same as negative 2 times negative 2, which is also 4 because two negatives make a positive. So we actually have two solutions here. X could equal 2 or X could equal negative 2. Now, rather than writing both solutions down separately, we normally just write that X equals plus or minus 2. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourself, well, if we have two solutions, in what kind of situation would we have just one solution or no solution? Well, I'll give a couple of examples of that. Let's say we had x squared equals 0. For this one, you only have one solution. X would equal 0 because you can't really have positive and negative 0. That's the example of having one solution. So when would you have no solutions? Well, let's say we had x squared equals negative 9. That means we need two numbers the same to multiply to give negative 9. And a lot of people go, oh, well, that's easy. That's 3 times negative 3. That would make negative 9. But these two numbers are not the same. We could do 3 times 3 or negative 3 times negative 3 to make them the same. But that would give us positive 9, not negative 9. It's impossible to square a number and get a negative solution. So if you were given this question, your response would be that there are no solutions. Anyway, let's get into the examples now. We'll start with question A. Usually when you're given a question like this, if you want to show you're working, you would square root both sides of the equal sign. And the reason we do that is when you square root a squared, it takes you back to a, and then you square root the 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. But you need to remember that even though the calculator says 6, there are actually two possible solutions. It could be plus 6 or it could be minus 6. Alright, now moving on to question B. At first glance this might look quite tricky, but all we need to do is add y squared to both sides of the equal sign. And we're going to cancel out the y squared on the left hand side, giving us 100, and then 0 plus y squared is y squared, which is the same as saying that y squared equals 100. Now all we have to do is square root both sides of the equal sign like so. If we square root y squared, we get y. If we square root 100, we get 10. And we need to remember to write that it could be plus 10 or minus 10 because we have two possible solutions here. Now moving on to question C, we really want x squared on its own. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 9 on both sides. It's going to cancel the 9 leaving me with x squared equals 25 over 9. Now I want to square root both sides, like so, because that will leave me with just x on its own. Now what do you get when you square root a fraction? And don't pull the calculator out. You really don't need it for this question. First of all, when you square root a fraction, you can split the square root into two. You can square root the 25 separately to the 9. And then it's not too difficult because the square root of 25 is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And the square root of 9 is 3. Now remembering that we're going to have two possible solutions here, so we just need to write that this could be plus or minus 5 over 3. Anyway, that concludes our video on example 1. Remember to read the description below for links to workbooklets that relate to this video.